My neighbor buried my driveway in snow because he thought I was a pushover, so I turned his property into an unescapable ice rink. I was chipping away at the last stubborn patch of ice at 6 a.m., my breath plumbing in the freezing air, when I heard the distinct, sickening crunch of metal hitting brick. I looked up, steam rising from my thermos, to see Gary's prized Ford F-150 spinning its wheels helplessly. The back end slid sideways, firmly wedged against his own brick mailbox. He was revving the engine, tires screaming against the asphalt, but he wasn't going anywhere. He was trapped on a glacier of his own making, and I just took a slow, satisfied sip of my coffee. To understand why I felt absolutely zero guilt watching a grown man scream inside his truck while his tires smoked, you have to understand the geography of our feud. We live in the Midwest, where winter isn't a season, it's a full-contact sport. I take pride in my property. I'm the guy who seals his driveway every summer. I'm the guy who salts before the storm hits. Gary, on the other hand, is the guy who mows his lawn at 7 a.m. on Sundays and lets his dog use my flower bed as a bathroom. He's a middle management type who thinks the world exists to serve him. He bought the biggest snowblower Home Depot sells, a bright orange beast that sounds like a jet engine, but he has no idea how to use it. The storm hit on a Tuesday. We got slammed with 14 inches of wet, heavy concrete snow. I woke up at 4:30 a.m. to clear it out because I had a client meeting at 9 a.m. that I couldn't miss. I don't use a blower, I use a shovel, it's my workout. For 2 hours I was out there in the dark, scraping, lifting, and throwing. My back was screaming. My hands were cramping inside my gloves, but by 6:30 a.m. my driveway was pristine, blacktop showing, edges crisp. It was a work of art. I went inside to grab a shower and a second coffee. I was feeling good, accomplished. Then I heard it, the roar of an engine. I looked out the kitchen window. Gary was waddling out of his garage, bundled up in a parka that cost more than my first car, firing up his orange monstrosity. He started on his driveway. Now, logic dictates that you blow the snow onto your own lawn. But Gary decided that was too much work. The wind was blowing slightly toward my house, sure, but the chute on his blower was adjustable. He didn't adjust it. I watched, jaw unhinged, as a high-velocity arc of heavy, wet snow launched from his machine, sailed over the property line, and landed squarely in the middle of my freshly cleared driveway. I banged on the window. "Hey," I yelled, but the glass muted it. He kept going. He wasn't just hitting the edge. He was burying the entire left lane of my driveway. 2 hours of work was being undone in seconds. I didn't bother with a coat. I stormed out the front door in my flannel shirt and jeans, marching through the snow banks. The cold hit me like a physical slap, but the rage burning in my gut kept me warm. "Gary," I shouted, waving my arms. He couldn't hear me over the machine, or he chose not to. He did another pass, sending another deluge of slush onto my blacktop. I walked right up to him and tapped him on the shoulder. He jumped, killed the engine, and pulled down his earmuffs. He looked annoyed that I had interrupted his work. "What?" he barked, his breath smelling like stale cigarettes and mouthwash. "You're blowing it onto my driveway," I said, pointing at the mountain of slush he had just created. "I just spent 2 hours clearing that." Gary looked at the pile, then he looked at me, then he shrugged. "Wind caught it," he said, a smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. "Nothing I can do, buddy. Physics." "Physics?" I felt a vain throb in my temple. "Adjust the chute, Gary. Aim it at your own yard." "Can't," he lied smoothly. "Mechanism is jammed. Frozen solid. Look, it's just snow. Get your shovel back out. Good exercise for a guy your age." "Move it," I said. My voice dropped an octave. "You put it there, you move it." He laughed. It was a sharp barking sound. "Yeah, no, I got places to be. It'll melt eventually." He put his earmuffs back on, fired up the blower, and, I kid you not, aimed the chute down slightly so the next stream hit my car's front bumper. I stood there for a moment, shaking, not from the cold, from the sheer, unadulterated disrespect. I wanted to tackle him. I wanted to shove that snowblower where the sun doesn't shine. But I didn't. I'm a civilized man. I turned around and walked back into my house. "Okay, Gary," I whispered to the empty kitchen. "Physics, you want to talk about physics?" I went to the thermostat and checked the outdoor sensor. It was currently 28 degrees Fahrenheit, but the forecast, a polar vortex, was descending. By 4 p.m. it was going to drop to 12 degrees. By midnight, -5 degrees. I walked into my garage, my heated garage. This is where the advantage lay. See, the previous owner was a car nut. He installed a utility sink and a high-flow hose bib inside the garage, with a dedicated hot water line for washing cars in the winter. I stared at the heavy-duty rubber hose coiled on the wall. Gary had finished his driveway. He went inside to watch the game. I could see the blue flicker of his 80-inch TV through his living room window. He left the pile on my driveway. He left a mess on the sidewalk. And worst of all, he had cleared his driveway down to the pavement, but he left a thin layer of slush because he was too lazy to scrape. I looked at the clock, 10 a.m. I waited until halftime. I knew Gary wouldn't move from his recliner. I uncoiled the hose. I attached the industrial spray nozzle, the kind that looks like a pistol grip. I cracked the garage door open just enough to slide the hose out. I crept along the side of the house, staying low behind the hedges. I felt like a commando, but instead of a rifle, I was armed with 50 feet of reinforced rubber tubing. I reached the property line. Gary's driveway sloped slightly downward toward the street. It was perfect. I turned the nozzle to mist first. I didn't want to make noise. I started at the top of his driveway, right near his garage door. I coated the asphalt. The water hit the freezing concrete and didn't freeze instantly, it pooled. It mixed with the slush he had left behind. Then I switched to stream. I soaked the pile of snow he had blown behind his wife's minivan. I saturated it until it was a heavy, sodden mess. Then I went for the kill shot. The apron of the driveway where it meets the street. I flooded it. I did this for 20 minutes. I used hot water paradoxically because hot water freezes faster, the Mpemba effect, or at least that's what I told myself. In reality, it just melted the snow momentarily, creating a perfect, flat surface of water before the cold air seized it. I was just finishing up, my boots soaked, when the real bombshell dropped. I heard the side door of Gary's house open. I froze, crouching behind his oversized recycling bin. I know, Gary was shouting into his phone. He walked out onto his back porch for a smoke. "Listen, Linda, tell the board I'll be there at 8 a.m. sharp. This presentation is my ticket to the VP spot. If I nail this, we're going to Hawaii. Nothing is going to stop me. The roads are clear, I checked." He took a drag of his cigarette. "Yeah, the neighbor was whining about the snow. What a loser, I buried him, literally. Yeah, okay, see you." He laughed again. He wasn't just going to work. He was going to the most important meeting of his career. He was gunning for a promotion. I looked at the water glistening on his driveway. I looked at the sky, which was turning a bruised purple as the temperature plummeted. "Hawaii," I whispered. "I don't think so, Gary." I retreated to my garage and shut the door. By 3 p.m., the thermometer read 15 degrees. By 6 p.m., it was single digits. I peeked out the window. Gary's driveway no longer looked wet. It looked glossy. It looked like obsidian. It was a solid, seamless sheet of black ice, approximately 2 inches thick at the bottom and slick as oil at the top. The pile of snow behind the minivan had transformed into an iceberg. I went to bed early. I slept like a baby. The alarm went off at 5:45 a.m. I didn't need it. I was already awake, brewing fresh coffee, waiting for the show. At 6:00 a.m., the automatic garage door across the street rumbled open. Gary walked out, dressed in his best suit, carrying a briefcase and a travel mug. He looked confident. He looked ready to conquer the corporate world. He took one step onto the driveway, and his feet flew out from under him like a cartoon character, slipping on a banana peel. Wham! He landed hard on his back. I winced. That had to hurt. He laid there for a second, staring at the sky. Then he scrambled up, brushing snow off his expensive wool coat, looking around furiously to see if anyone saw. He walked gingerly toward his truck, gripping the side mirror for balance. He opened the door and climbed in. The engine roared to life. He threw it into reverse. The wheels spun. The high-pitched whine of rubber on ice cut through the morning silence. The truck didn't move an inch backward. It just slid sideways. Gravity took over. The heavy front end of the truck began to drift slowly, inexorably, down the slope of the driveway. He slammed on the brakes. Nothing. He gunned it worse. The truck pirouetted in slow motion. The back bumper swung around and, crunch, slammed into the brick pillar of his mailbox. That was the sound I heard when I was outside chipping my own ice. I walked down my driveway, shovel in hand, looking the picture of a helpful neighbor. Gary was out of the truck now, screaming at the tires. He saw me. "You," he shrieked, pointing a gloved finger. "You did this. You put water on my driveway." "Water?" I asked, leaning on my shovel. "Gary, it's -10 degrees. Why would I play with water?" "I saw the hose marks," he lied. He hadn't seen anything. "You flooded it. My truck is wrecked. I have a meeting in 20 minutes. "That sounds stressful," I said. "Maybe you should have adjusted your chute yesterday. Karma has a funny way of adjusting things for you." "I'm calling the cops," he yelled, his face turning purple. "This is vandalism." "Go ahead," I said. "Tell them you slipped on ice in the middle of winter. Tell them you think your neighbor secretly watered your driveway while you were watching football. See how that sounds." He tried to walk toward me to get in my face, but he forgot where he was standing. His dress shoes lost traction again. This time, he didn't fall, but he did the splits, sliding uncontrollably down the driveway until he hit the street curb with a thud. I looked at my clean, dry driveway. I looked at Gary, sprawling on his ice rink, his suit wet, his truck dented, his VP promotion likely dissolving with every passing minute. "Wind caught it," I said, repeating his words from yesterday. "Sorry, Gary, physics." I turned around and went back inside to pour another cup of coffee. I heard him calling a tow truck, but in this weather, the wait time was 4 hours. So I have to ask, am I the monster for turning his property into a skating rink, or did he deserve to slide right out of his promotion for burying me in his laziness? If you have made it this far and want to see more videos like this, then kindly subscribe and turn on notifications so you may never miss another story like this.